Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are checking out Dami's Rockabye cover, and I'm fairly certain I don't know the original, like anything else that's new, because nothing comes to mind when I think of that title, so I don't know if we're going to be getting singing, rapping, a bit of both, something more in the rock-ish realm as we got with like Beautiful or the Love Me or Leave Me cover. I don't know. I'm just here for the vibes because it's Dami, and we're here to celebrate her a little bit. But excited to see what we're gonna get, and at least from like the thumbnail, it looks a little bit moody, so I hope it doesn't get me too much in my feelings. If we're getting to like butterfly territory. Okay, Rockabye makes me think like a lullaby, but I don't know if that's what we're getting. Oh, that's interesting. With this post on the voice? I don't know what I was expecting, but something so synth heavy was not it.
She's gonna stress so far away from her father's daughter. She just wants a life for her baby. Although no one here comes, she's got to save him. She can't see more love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love.
Oh, see, okay, I recognize some of that. So I feel like I have probably heard this song at some point, just in passing. But getting a bit of her lower range, but it's interesting because her singing voice is so different from her rapping voice, right? Like her rapping voice is like super bass heavy, right? And then her singing voice is just very light and airy. So hearing the lower end of her singing cadence is really interesting. I know I've heard like bits and pieces of her singing throughout the actual discography of Dreamcatcher, but there was like a little bit of like vocal fry that she put at the end of one of the phrases here. I don't know if I went back far. We can go back farther, it's fine. But this song, I don't know, I was expecting that we were probably going to get something a little bit slower from the way that it looked, a bit like darker coloring, moody, and like again, Rockabye makes me think like a lullaby as opposed to something that is more upbeat or has a little bit of a darker edge to it.
She's gonna stress so far away from her father's daughter. She just wants a life for her baby. Although no one here comes, she's got to save him. She can't see more love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love, nobody matters like you. She danced in your life, ain't gonna be nothing like my life. You're gonna go and have a good life, I'm gonna do what I've got to do.
Ooh, beautiful transition up into a lighter, higher tone. Ooh. Beautiful, like lightening up of her tone. She's a very light tone anyway, but just getting into that higher part of her range. Love the way that she transitioned up there in the middle of a phrase. Again, I don't fully know the original, so I can't have any thoughts about that, okay? Just put that to the side because I'm not here to fully analyze the song and pick apart everything. I'm here to focus in on what she's doing with the performance. I'm trying to like fully encapsulate it, but there's like this gentleness to it, but this, again, like this like residue of these little things that she's putting into her voice, which are things that I hear when she's doing her rapping cadence. So whether it's like the vocal fry or just like this tiny bit of give in her voice where she's like activating those false vocal cords above her larynx, even just the way that she's throwing out some of the sound, like you can hear almost this like transition of where she's aiming the sound. And I don't know how I could best describe that. I feel like most of the time she's aiming the sound at the roof of her mouth. And then there's every once in a while where she aims it like a little bit higher up into like her nasal cavity when she lightens up her sound. She flips up in the sound. It's like she shifts the sound placement. A little vocal run at the end of that phrase too. Someone give her a hug though. Why is there a tiny kettle in the back? Or a teapot?
Trying to keep him warm, trying to keep out the cold. In the looks in your eyes, he don't know he's safe, and she says she dancing more love. No one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all the
just like a gorgeous light transition there, but also some of the acting coming in, like her having almost this like longing moments where you can see like a bit of a smile leaking in, and then other points where there's a little more conviction into it. I like that she's pushing into some of those like micro expressions as we're building up on the song too, the performance wise. Very like minimal video, right? For a lot of these covers, they usually don't have a ton going on in terms of what they're doing in the video, which is totally fine. And we're just happy to have any kind of covers or any performances from them. At least I am. But it's always interesting to see how they incorporate performance elements into something that is for camera, and it's a little bit of a quieter feeling to the video as opposed to performing some of their like really big sounding songs for like stages and stuff. Very different vibe there. Like just going from what she has in like the Two Rings fan cam that I checked out, and then this drastically different performances that we're getting, which is just really interesting to see like the different dynamics. And again, like very different performance wise too, of what her vocal delivery was. Obviously like a bit of a time gap between these two as well, but it's just sweet to get to see some of the softer vocals from her and some of those like tiny micro expressions that I feel like I don't see a lot of in terms of the vulnerability that she's putting into it, because I feel like a lot of the time her performance within Dreamcatcher is more of that confident, darker counterweight to some of the lighter sounds within the group from other members. So I think that it's always fascinating to see how she performs some of the quieter songs, because a lot of the quieter songs I haven't seen actual performances for. I've seen like music videos for some of the big singles, and at least like a couple of the quieter songs I've seen performances for, but most of the time I don't get to see some of their quieter, like more ballad songs and how they perform them yet. I have a lot of opportunities now to work through some of the performances now that I've finished discography stuff. Who knows? Also all English songs, so because she has like a sparkle of like tears almost too. I mean, simple but effective. Oh. Anytime there's any butterfly imagery, I'm just like, ugh. You know, like my heart just feels like it's being ripped out when it comes to Dami. Still commanding though. I mean, she said stage presence even at the end there. But again, she has like the kind of like glitter that almost looks like tear tracks and stuff. Again, like little details. There's even a part where there was like call and response, and they had the editing so that she was like facing different directions. Simple but effective, right? Using these reflective, the kind of crystals and then the water, and using the window behind her to backlight her, having the kind of light overlay on her projected over her. Simple but effective. Always love to see how they incorporate those different elements. Love getting to hear like the softer tone from her, and again, getting to see a softer performance from her, because I feel like a lot of the time her role in the singles for Dreamcatcher is again to have kind of this powerful yet confident, controlled vibe to her, as opposed to some of the other kind of characters that we get in the voices from the different members, that she's a very distinct counterweight to a lot of that, and her voice makes her stand out, not just because of her having a rap performance as opposed to a vocal performance, but I think that just like the tone that she has is very unique in that. But even within her singing, like I feel like she has a very interesting tone to her singing voice that is very like light and airy and soft, and there is this like vulnerability to it. There's this feeling of inviting you in, and I think that having a song like this that has some like upbeat elements but in general is a very tampered down, controlled song fits with her voice really well. And again, an English track, so always bonus points for her doing a song that is not in a language that is one of your primary languages that you use all the time. Cute little video from her, and it makes me like a little bit sad whenever we get any kind of butterfly imagery though, because I'm like, don't do this to me, don't, because I've already lived through that. I always find it interesting to see what kinds of songs they end up covering. Every cover that I've heard, just from like Dami, right, or even just like performances that she's done, like we have the dessert performance, which is interesting. So a certain vibe to it, right? And then you have Love Me or Leave Me that she did with, again, different vibe to it. This one, very different vibe to it, even getting into like solo project stuff like Butterfly versus like Beautiful, right? All of those songs have drastically different feelings to them. So I love getting to just see all these different angles, especially when we get into covers, right? I think that it's a great opportunity for the members to get to play around a lot. And again, how often does Dami get to have a softer tone to her? She gets it like a little bit more. Again, I have to remember this in context of when it came out in comparison to some of the stuff stuff later on where she does have some of those like softer vocals delivered in some of the more like ballad, slower songs that they have, but she doesn't have a whole lot of opportunity to do that, let alone get to see like a performance of it, right? Like I was saying, a lot of the time when I see Dami perform, it's in one of the singles. It's like a music video or something where she has a very certain charisma vibe to her. Again, just checked out the Two Rings performance, and there's like a certain aura to her in that performance. And I feel like that fits in a lot more to what she's usually doing, but this giving her a cover gives her an opportunity to invite some of those more like quieter, more vulnerable things into her performance and get to see those tiny expressions of how she conveys what's going on in that. And just like the little details on this of like simple but effective. I feel like letting this just have its space and breathe and not trying to do too much with it is always just fun. Like to see what they do with more like minimal involvement in terms of like sets and editing and filming time and costumes and stuff like that. So great little like addition to my kind of collection of stuff that she's done, and seeing her kind of drift out of her comfort zone a little bit in terms of like her persona within Dreamcatcher, right? So I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so the next time I post a Dreamcatcher reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.